My mom used to tell me stories about when she was a little girl. Most of her stories were happy. She told me about playing outside and riding her bike. But one story was very scary. It was about a big disaster that happened in Cincinnati, Ohio, a long, long time ago. She called it the Great Coke Bottle Explosion. She said it was a day that no one in the city would ever forget. It sounded like something from a movie, too big and too strange to be real. But she promised me it was a true story from the year 1983, a time when things were very different. She said it was important to remember what happened, so it would never happen again. I would always get a little nervous when she started the story. I would sit close to her on the couch, pulling my knees up to my chest. She told me that before I was born, people weren't as careful as they are now. Companies built amazing things, but sometimes they didn't think about what could go wrong. The Coke bottle was one of those amazing things. It was a huge tourist attraction, a landmark that everyone knew. People came from all over the country just to see it. It was a symbol of fun and happy times, but it became a symbol of something much sadder. My mom said the story wasn't meant to scare me forever. It was meant to teach me a lesson about being careful and about how communities come together to help each other when bad things happen. Even though the story was sad, she always made sure to tell me about the heroes who helped people and the way the city rebuilt itself. She wanted me to understand that even after the worst day, there is always a new day that comes after. Her voice would get soft and serious, and I knew I had to listen very carefully to every word she said about that strange, sticky disaster. I always imagined what it must have been like. I was only 9 years old when she first told me the full story. I tried to picture a world with a Coke bottle so big it touched the clouds. It was hard to believe. In my mind, it was like a fairy tale, but a dark one. A giant soda bottle left in the middle of a human city. As my mom spoke, the world outside my window seemed to fade away. I was no longer in my cozy living room in the year 2025. I was a little kid in 1983, looking up at a giant glass bottle and feeling a sense of wonder and a little bit of fear. My mom described the bottle in great detail. She said it wasn't just big, it was enormous. It was taller than the tallest skyscraper in Cincinnati. It stood right in the center of the city, a giant monument made of thick green glass, just like the old-fashioned Coke bottles. It was so tall that on clear days you could see the sun sparkle on its curved top from miles away. The famous Coca-Cola logo was painted on the side in huge, swirling white letters. It was a landmark that everyone was proud of. People would have picnics in the park below it, always looking up in awe. The bottle was more than just a statue. It was actually filled with real Coca-Cola. Can you imagine that? Millions and millions of gallons of fizzy, bubbly soda were held inside that glass tower. The company said it was the world's largest soda fountain. On special holidays, they would connect hoses to the bottom and give out free cups of Coke to everyone in the city. My mom said the soda inside was always kept cold and under a lot of pressure to keep it fizzy. That pressure, she explained, was the dangerous part. It was like a giant balloon being blown up more and more each day. People loved the giant bottle. It was on postcards and t-shirts. Tourists would take pictures standing at the base, looking like tiny little ants next to the massive structure. It represented the fun and modern spirit of the 1980s. Nobody thought of it as dangerous. It was just a cool, weird thing that made their city special. My mom said she remembered going on a school field trip to see it. She and her friends felt so small standing next to it. They touched the cool glass and wondered what it would be like to swim in a giant pool of soda. But my mom told me that some engineers had warned the company. They said that having so much pressurized liquid inside a glass container that big was a bad idea. Glass can be strong, but it can also be brittle. They worried that a small crack could cause a huge problem. The summer of 1983 was very hot, and the sun beat down on the glass bottle day after day. The pressure inside the bottle was building up, like a secret getting too big to hold. But most people just went about their lives, enjoying the summer, never guessing the disaster that was about to pour down on them. The disaster happened on a hot afternoon in August. My mom said the sky was clear and blue, a perfect summer day. People were working in their offices, kids were playing in the parks, and shoppers were walking along the downtown streets. No one was paying much attention to the giant Coke bottle. Then, a low groaning sound started. It was a deep, strange noise that came from the bottle itself. People who were nearby stopped and looked up. They saw a tiny crack, like a spider web, forming on the side of the glass. The crack grew bigger and bigger, spreading up the side of the bottle like lightning. Then, with a sound louder than thunder, the bottle exploded. It didn't just break, it burst into a million pieces. A giant wave of dark, fizzy Coca-Cola crashed down onto the city below. The wave was enormous, taller than buildings, and it moved with incredible force. It swept through the streets, pushing cars aside like they were toys and smashing into the lower floors of buildings. The air was filled with the sweet smell of Coke and the terrifying sound of crashing and screaming. It was a flood, but not a flood of water. It was a sticky, brown, bubbly tidal wave. The force of the explosion sent huge shards of green glass flying for miles. The pieces were as big as cars, and they rained down on the city, crashing through roofs and windows. It was chaos everywhere. The massive wave of soda flooded the downtown area in minutes. The streets became raging rivers of Coke. The liquid was thick and sticky, making it hard for people to escape. It filled up subway stations and underground parking garages, trapping people inside. My mom said it was like a nightmare come to life, a bizarre and terrifying event that nobody could have prepared for. She told me the city went dark as the soda wave knocked out power lines. The sun was blocked by a brown mist of sprayed soda. People were confused and scared. They didn't understand what had happened at first. One minute they were enjoying a normal day, and the next, their world was turned upside down by an ocean of soda pop. The sound of the explosion was heard all over the city, and a giant brown cloud could be seen rising from where the bottle once stood. The proud landmark was gone, and in its place was a disaster zone. The aftermath of the explosion was terrible. The city was covered in a thick, sticky layer of drying Coca-Cola. The streets were impassable, filled with wrecked cars, broken furniture, and debris all stuck together in a brown goo. Rescue workers had a very hard time moving through the mess. My mom said that tragically, 70 people lost their lives in the disaster. They were caught in the flood, and there was no way for them to get to safety in time. It was a very sad day for Cincinnati, a day of loss and shock for so many families who lost someone they loved. My mom told me one particularly strange and sad story. There was a young man who had survived the initial blast. He found himself in a street that was ankle-deep in spilled Coke. At first, he was just happy to be alive. But he was very thirsty, and not thinking clearly, he started to drink the soda from the street. He drank a lot of it, cup after cup. But the soda was contaminated from the dirty streets, and the sheer amount of sugar was too much for his body to handle. He became very sick, and he died later that day. His story was a weird footnote to the tragedy, a reminder of how strange and dangerous the whole situation was. For me, hearing this story as a kid was scary, but it also taught me something important. My mom wanted me to see that big, exciting things can sometimes have hidden dangers. She said that we have to trust the people who warn us about risks, even if the warnings seem boring or unnecessary. The story of the great Coke bottle explosion wasn't just about a silly accident with soda. It was about listening to experts and thinking about the consequences of our actions. It made me realize that safety is more important than having the biggest or most amazing attraction in the world. In the end, my mom always finished the story by telling me how the people of Cincinnati came together. They cleaned up the sticky mess street by street. They helped their neighbors rebuild. They mourned the people they lost, and they made sure that no company would ever be allowed to build something so dangerous in their city again. The giant bottle was never rebuilt. Instead, they built a beautiful park where it once stood, a quiet place to remember the people who died. For me, the story became less about the scary explosion and more about the strength of the people who survived it.